Bobby Baccellieri, the last man standing.
Tony Soprano doesn't hate Bobby because he's weak. He hates him because Bobby is happy. By the time The Sopranos reaches its later seasons,
Suppose you got a little choo-choo train at home, huh?
Tony Soprano's contempt for Bobby Bacala is no longer a subplot. It becomes a microcosm of the show's entire thesis. Tony cannot abide Bobby's existence, not because Bobby is a threat, but because Bobby is an affront. In a world of greed, betrayal, and perpetual unhappiness, Bobby dares to be content. And to Tony, that is intolerable. Bobby Bacala is, by mob standards, shockingly well-adjusted.
It's my hobby, Janice. Why you gotta belittle it?
He's a doting father, a faithful husband, to Janice no less, and a man who can find peace in toy trains and family dinners rather than violence, gambling, or a mistress du jour.
Did you drop off the dry cleaning?
Your uncle's missing. He took his car. He didn't call you, did he?
He spent years caring for Uncle Junior with dignity, proved himself loyal, and generally carried himself without the constant self-pity or rage that poisons Tony and his inner circle. By all accounts, Bobby is a rarity in the mafia world.
Where the fuck were you that night? Why was the skipper babysitting Junior?
I had other family obligations.
A man who has found a functional life inside dysfunction, which is precisely why Tony loathes him. Tony's hatred for Bobby is rooted in projection. Bobby embodies everything Tony lacks: domestic stability, emotional simplicity, and the rare ability to be satisfied without self-destruction.
Wonder where Harpo's eating his Sunday dinner.
Worse still, Bobby helps Janice grow into someone slightly less deranged than the rest of their family. Tony's entire mythology of himself as a damaged product of terrible parents only works if Janice remains a train wreck. If she improves, then Tony is revealed not as a victim of fate, but as an architect of his own misery.
Mahatma Gandhi over here. Nice.
Small wonder the broadest grin ever to cross Tony's face comes not in victory, but in watching Janice relapse into rage after he deliberately provokes her. This is the template for how Tony treats Bobby, not merely undermining him, but actively chipping away at his peace of mind.
1 second you're sitting there enjoying a ride with your family.
For every moment of warmth, say the carnival outing with Janice, Bobby, and Domenica, there are 10 moments of deliberate cruelty. At a seemingly benign Sunday dinner, Tony drags up Harpo, knowing it will shatter Janice's fragile contentment. He walks out, smugly, smiling as the meal collapses behind him.
Don't look at the floor, Bobby. Look at me. I want you to talk to that bald cocksucker.
He is the schoolyard bully grown into middle age, incapable of allowing others joy unless he has destroyed it first. Critics who claim Tony builds Bobby up mistake elevation for benevolence.
You think Bobby Baccellieri?
Yes, Tony makes Bobby his number 3. Yes, he puts him into positions of power. But this is not generosity. It is corrosion. Tony forces Bobby to make his bones, a humiliating initiation designed to rob him of innocence. He lifts Bobby professionally while destroying him personally. This is Tony's modus operandi: to groom men for advancement only to hollow them out.
Ralph.
Ever since I'm back from Miami.
Christopher received this treatment, as did Ralphie. Bobby is simply the last in line, and jealousy runs through it all like a poisoned vein. Bobby, the so-called fat moron, is somehow lighter than Tony, light enough to enjoy his trains, his kids, his simple pleasures. By the later seasons, Bobby even loses weight, while Tony balloons after his hospital stint. There's that cutting moment when Tony watches Bobby play basketball with genuine skill, his envy palpable.
Oh, my shoulder is killing me. Jesus fucking Christ, Tony.
Bobby beats him in a drunken family brawl, and Tony scrambles to Carmela with excuses. If he were younger, if he hadn't been shot, if he were in better shape. All the qualifiers in the world cannot mask the truth. Tony lost, and Bobby is everything he is not.
I roll again.
To call Tony pure evil is a simplification, but only because evil is too tidy a label for such petty cruelty. Tony is not some gothic villain stroking a cat in a dark lair. He is something far uglier, a bored narcissist who treats cruelty as a hobby. He needs to belittle, humiliate, and dismantle those around him the way others need alcohol or Prozac. It is his drug, and Bobby, with his guileless good nature, is the perfect target.
So we discuss his career. I'm his wife.
And yet, Tony's resentment is also practical. Bobby's rise comes courtesy of Janice, and Tony despises the idea that happiness could be achieved through marriage, commitment, or, God forbid, stability. To Tony, that is weakness. The entire mythology of mob masculinity rests on domination, not partnership. Bobby undermines that mythology simply by existing as a nice guy who manages to survive and even thrive without the constant parade of mistresses, cocaine, and paranoia. One can trace Tony's suspicion back even further.
What do we do about Junior?
He's in jail.
Bobby was a holdover from Junior's crew during the botched assassination attempt on Tony's life, which leaves a residue of mistrust. While Bobby himself was never directly implicated, his presence in those circles ensures that Tony never fully accepts him as loyal. And when Bobby joins with Janice, Tony reads it as both a betrayal and a threat. Janice has secured her cushy job wife life, and Tony is forced to host a domestic bliss he can neither replicate nor stomach. Of course, Bobby's tragedy is that he is not a saint, merely the least miserable man in a nest of vipers. His shyness, his simplicity, his refusal to engage in the darker rituals of mob life all mark him as weak in Tony's eyes. For Tony, weakness is not a flaw to be tolerated. It is an invitation to torment. When Bobby finally kills a man, it is not because the job demands it, but because Tony insists on tainting him. The boss's pettiness turns into ritual corruption.
I swear to God, I'm throwing all this shit right in the garbage.
In the end, Bobby becomes the happy wanderer that Tony can never be. A man content to live quietly, love his family, and lose himself in his hobby trains.
I see some guy walking down the street.
For Tony, this is unforgivable. His entire persona requires that no one in his orbit ever achieve peace, lest his own misery be thrown into sharp relief. And so, he ridicules Bobby's trains, his weight,
I mean, get off my car before you flip it over, you fat fuck.
his marriage, even his very presence. Because Bobby dares to live as if happiness is possible, Tony is compelled to prove it isn't.
You know, forget about the way that Tony Soprano makes his way in the world.
This is the genius of The Sopranos. Viewers often fall into the trap of idolizing Tony as an anti-hero, confusing charisma with virtue, but the show itself makes the point clear. Tony is not complicated because he is both good and bad. He is complicated because he insists on convincing himself he is good, while proving in every small act of cruelty that he is anything but.
I'll tell you this, Bobby. You can't hide behind this brother-in-law shit forever.
His war on Bobby Bacala is not an outlier. It is the essence of his character. When Bobby finally lays hands on Tony and beats him during their lakeside vacation, it is a cathartic moment, not because Bobby is a hero, but because Tony is finally exposed. The bully bleeds. The miserable tyrant tastes humiliation. And for a brief, shining moment, the happy wanderer wins.
Well, at least Tom Sr. isn't the happy wanderer anymore.
Tony couldn't stand happiness. Prove him wrong. Subscribe.